Zoe stormed into the room like a furious storm, her eyes blazing with anger as she held up her now ruined dress in her left hand. The once elegant fabric was now marred with a noticeable burn mark near the hem, a darkened patch that stood out like an ugly scar against the soft material. Her fingers gripped the fabric so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Her jaw clenched, and without hesitation, she turned to her younger sister. Why can't you do something as simple as pressing a dress properly? She snapped, her voice laced with frustration. I trusted you with this one thing, and you ruined it. Do you even know how important this dress was? Her voice rose with each word, her frustration pouring out like a tidal wave. Wine, who had been standing near the ironing board, flinched at the sudden outburst. Her hands instinctively gripped the edge of the table, her breath catching in her throat. Guilt settled in her chest like a heavy stone. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I must have gotten distracted. She stammered, struggling to form a proper sentence, but Zoe was far from pacified. She let out a dry, humorless laugh, shaking her head in disbelief. Distracted, that's your excuse. Do you even realize what you have done? She spat, holding up the burnt dress again for emphasis. I was supposed to wear this on my date with Jungkook tonight. Do you have any idea how hard it was to find the perfect outfit? And now, thanks to you, I have nothing to wear. The name Jungkook struck a painful chord in Wine's heart, but she pushed that feeling aside. Right now, Zoe's anger was like a storm, and there was no stopping it. I will fix it. I can try. Fix it. Are you kidding me? You can't fix this wine. The dress is burned. What are you gonna do? Stitch a new one with magic? God, you ruin everything. Those last words stung like a slap to the face. Wine's lips parted slightly, but she couldn't find the right words to defend herself. Just then, their mother walked into the room, her presence instantly demanding attention. She took one look at Zoe's furious expression, then at the burned dress, and her expression hardened. What is going on in here? Zoe wasted no time turning toward their mother, her tone filled with exasperation. Mom, look at what Wine did. She burned my dress, the one I was supposed to wear for my date with Jungkook tonight. How am I supposed to go out now? Their mother's gaze shifted toward Wine, disappointment flashing in her eyes. She let out a deep sigh, pinching the bridge of her nose as if trying to contain her frustration. Wine, how could you be so careless? She scolded, her voice sharp. You should have been more responsible. Wine's throat tightened. She wanted to explain, to tell them that it was an accident, that she hadn't meant to ruin it. But what was the point? They had already made up their minds. Zoe scoffed, flipping her long hair over her shoulder. Whatever, I will just have to find something else to wear. Let's go, Mom. With that, Zoe and their mother turned and left the room, leaving Wine standing there alone. The room suddenly felt too big, too quiet, too empty. A single tear slipped down her cheek before she even realized it. She lowered her gaze to the floor and whispered softly to herself, I hope everything will be fine. Her own voice wavered, uncertain, but deep down she wasn't even sure that what fine meant anymore. Dragging her heavy feet, Wine made her way to her room. The moment she entered, she shut the door behind her and exhaled a shaky breath. The air felt heavier like the weight of her emotions was pressing down on her chest. Without thinking, she walked toward her bed and collapsed onto it, burying her face in the soft pillows. Her body sank into the mattress, but instead of comfort, all she felt was an overwhelming sense of emptiness. Slowly, she reached for her phone, unlocking it with a familiar swipe. Her fingers trembled slightly as she navigated to her gallery, and there it was, his picture. Jungkook's face filled her screen, his dark, mesmerizing eyes staring right back at her, as if he were looking straight into her soul. His lips curled into a soft, effortless smile, the kind that made hearts race and knees weak. Wine's fingers brushed over the screen, tracing the sharp lines of his jaw, the curve of his lips. Her heart ached. Why can't you stray away from my mind? She murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Why can't you stop thinking about you? Her vision blurred slightly as she bit her lower lip, willing herself not to cry. You are not mine, you never were. The words hung in the air, a painful reminder of reality. Yet, despite knowing the truth, she couldn't stop herself from feeling this way. No matter how much she tried, Jungkook was always there in her thoughts, in her dreams, in the quiet moments when no one else was around. And the worst part, he would never know. Laying on her bed, one was lost in her thoughts, staring at the ceiling while Jungkook's face remained etched in her mind. His smile, his voice, the way he made her heart race, it was all too much. She let out a deep sigh, shaking her head. Why am I like this? Why does my heart refuse to listen to me? Just then, ding dong. The sudden sound of the doorbell snapped her out of her thoughts. She blinked, sitting up as the ringing echoed through the house. Who could that be? She murmured to herself before getting up, rubbing her hands against her sweatpants. She made her way downstairs. The air felt oddly heavy as she approached the living room. But the moment she stepped in, her breath hitched. There he was, Jungkook, sitting on the couch, scrolling through his phone, looking as effortlessly breathtaking as always. His dark hair fell slightly over his forehead, and his black t-shirt hugged his frame perfectly. The sight of him so casually sitting there made her heart pound against her ribs. She instinctively glanced around. Zoe must have gone to get him a drink, she thought, and mom is probably in her room. That mean it was just the two of them, alone. A wave of nervousness crashed over her, and she quickly turned to leave before he could notice her presence. But just as she was about to step away, his voice stopped her. Why? Her heart nearly leaped out of her chest. Slowly, she turned back around, her eyes wide. How are you? She stood frozen for a moment, unable to believe that he was actually talking to her, not to Zoe, not to anyone else but her. She was so lost in her thoughts that she didn't even register that he had asked her something. Jungkook tilted his head slightly, raising a brow at her silence. I'm asking something. Are you here? He waved his hand near her face, and that snapped her out of her trance. Yes, I'm good. She blurted out, mentally cringing at how awkward she sounded. Jungkook let out a small chuckle before sitting back against the couch. That's good. I'm good too. He paused for a moment before glancing back at her. So, what do you do these days? Wine tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, her fingers nervously fit getting. Just going to college, mostly. Before Jungkook could respond, Zoe entered the room, holding a tray with two glasses of juice. As she walked in, she intentionally brushed past Wine. her shoulder harshly knocking into hers. Wine stumbled slightly but didn't say anything. Jungkook noticed. His gaze flickered toward Zoe before shifting back to Wine. His brows slightly furrowed. Wine, feeling like she was intruding, turned to leave, but once again his voice stopped her. Wine, come sit with us. She froze. Did she hear that right? You never sit with us. Zoe's face twisted in despair. Unbelievable. She subtly shook her head, silently warning Wine not to accept. But Wine didn't want to argue, so instead of walking away, she hesitantly sat down on the opposite couch. Zoe shot her a glare, her fingers tightening around the tray. Jungkook, however, ignored her and picked up a glass of juice. Instead of drinking it himself, he held it out toward Wine. Here, have this. Wine hesitated for a second before reaching out and taking the glass. Zoe, on the other hand, was seething. Unable to stand it, she abruptly sat beside Jungkook, too close, and clung onto his arm. Jungkook, you have no idea how much I missed you. She cooed, batting her lashes. But Jungkook gently pulled his arm away, his attention shifting back to Wine. So, what were you saying before? Please complete your sentence. Wine was about to speak when Wine, go to the kitchen. Wine turned to look at her. The dishes are dirty, go wash them. She said, her tone harsh and commanding. Jungkook frowned. Wine, not wanting to cause trouble, simply nodded and got up. She placed the untouched juice back on the table and quietly walked toward the kitchen. But just as she disappeared, Jungkook turned to Zoe, his expression unreadable. Why do you talk to her like that? His voice was calm but firm. Who speaks to their own sister with that kind of harshness? Zoe rolled her eyes, letting out an exaggerated sigh. Who said she's my sister? She scoffed. Jungkook's expression darkened. What do you mean? Zoe leaned in slightly, lowering her voice as if about to reveal some deep secret. Listen, she's not my blood relative. Her mother died when she was 7. My dad married her mother, and that's how she ended up here. But let me make one thing clear, she's just a burden. Jungkook's jaw clenched. What are you saying right now? Zoe smirked, playing with the strands of her hair. I mean, she's practically a maid, Jungkook. She should be grateful we even let her stay here. Jungkook stared at her, his expression unreadable, but then his voice came out cold. That's enough. Zoe blinked, catch off guard. Do you even hear yourself calling her a burden, treating her like she is less than you? He scoffed, shaking his head in disappointment. That's disgusting, Zoe. Jungkook, no, stop talking. His tone was sharp now. The way you treat wine is pathetic, and if you think pulling her down will impress me, then you are dead wrong. Zoe's face flushed red with embarrassment. That's not what I don't want to hear it. He stood up, grabbing his keys. Let's go. You wanted to go shopping, right? Zoe immediately perked up, eager to change the subject. Yes, of course, let's go. She sat cheerfully, acting as if nothing had happened. But as they left, Jungkook's mind wasn't on Zoe anymore. It was on Wine and the way her eyes held so much sadness. At night, Jungkook dropped Zoe at home, watching as she disappeared inside. He was about to drive away when something catch his eyes. A lone figure sat in the garden, bathed in the soft glow of the moonlight. It was wine. She sat quietly on the bench, her eyes fixed on the sky, lost in thought. Jungkook hesitated for a moment before stepping out of the car. The night was cool, and the gentle rustling of the leaves filled the silence as he walked toward her. Without a word, he sat beside her. Wine flinched at his sudden presence, turning her head quickly. What are you doing here? Her voice came out small, barely above a whisper. Jungkook let out a soft chuckle, leaning back against the bench. Nothing, just wanted to spend some time with you. Her breath hitched. What if Zoe gets us? She will definitely scold me. Please go from here. Her voice held a desperate plea. She stood up hurriedly, ready to leave, but before she could take a step, Choco grabbed her wrist and gently pulled her back down onto the bench. Why do you always run away from me? His voice was softer this time, laced with an unfamiliar vulnerability. Do you hate me? White shook her head quickly. It's not like that. She hesitated, forgetting with the hem of her sleeves, her fingers twisting nervously. If you don't understand, she will definitely hurt me. Please, just go. Jungkook's jaw clenched. Who will hurt you? She lowered her gaze, refusing to answer. I'm asking you something. His voice dropped serious now. I already know the answer, but I want to hear it from you. A shaky breath left her lips as she whispered, if so, she will blame me for. She lowered her head even more, nervously playing with her fingers. Jungkook watched her intently before, without warning, pulling her into his arms. I'm sorry. Why, Stephen? Why are you saying sorry? A single tear slipped from Jungkook's eye as he tightened his hold around her. Because I know how she treats you. Even today, she pushed you harshly by your shoulders. Why let out a soft, bitter chuckle? Oh, I'm used to it. Jungkook's grip on her tightened slightly. Can I ask you something? Please let me go. She tried to pull away, but he held her still. Just one last question, please. She hesitated, then gave him a small note. Jungkook took a deep breath, staring at her intently. Why do you always ignore me? Her lips parted, but no words came out at first. Then, in a broken whisper, she admitted, "Because I like you." Jungkook's eyes widened in shock. What? A small, sad smile tugged at Wine's lips as she blinked back tears. Yes, and I know you will never be mine. That's why I always keep my distance. A tear slipped down her cheek, mirroring the one Jungkook had shed earlier. But before either of them could say another word, a furious voice shattered the moment. What did you just say? They both turned in alarm, finding Zoe standing a few feet away. Her face twisted in weight. Before Wine could react, Zoe stormed toward her and slapped her hard across the face. A maid like you saying this, she let out a bitter laugh. Don't you have any shame? You have your wildy eyes on your own sister's boyfriend. How disgusting. Wine's cheek burned from the impact, tears welling up in her eyes. But before Zoe could utter another venomous word, Jungkook's hand struck across Zoe's face. The sound echoed in the silent night. Zoe gasped, clutching her cheek in disbelief. Don't you dare touch her again. His voice was low, dangerous, and don't you ever talk to her like that. Zoe's face contoured in rage, but Jungkook didn't even spare her another glance. His focus remained on Wine, whose eyes were wide with shock. Zoe stumbled back, her hand clutching her burning cheek as she stared at Jungkook in disbelief. You slapped me for this trash. Before she could finish, Jungkook's palm met her face again, the sharp sound echoing in the night. She gasped, her eyes welling with tears. Wine, shaken by the scene unfolding in front of her, quickly stepped forward. Please stop. Her voice was barely above a whisper, her hands trembling. Jungkook turned his icy gaze towards Zoe, his voice laced with disgust. You're unbelievable, Zoe. How could you treat her like this, even if she isn't your real sister? There is still something called humanity, but you don't have a shred of it. Zoe's lips quivered as she desperately tried to explain herself. Jungkook, it's not like that. Please listen to me. Before he could respond, the sound of hurried footsteps made them turn their heads. Zoe's mother stepped outside, her expression darkening at the sight of her daughter crying. Her sharp eyes immediately locked onto Wine. Jungkook, my son, what's happening? Zoe, sniffling, ran toward her mother. Mom, look at what he did. He hit me for her. She pointed an accusing finger at Wine, her voice filled with rage and desperation. Wine shrank back, her heart pounding, but Jungkook didn't let go of her wrist. Instead, he turned to Zoe's mother, his expression unreadable. Nothing, auntie. His voice was calm but firm. Then, after a pause, he added coldly, but I have to say this, you have failed as a mother. Zoe's mother's eyes widened in shock. You didn't even teach her daughter basic manners. She doesn't respect people, she doesn't know kindness, and I refuse to be associated with someone like that. Zoe gasped. Jungkook, what are you saying? His next words shattered her completely. I'm breaking up with you. Zoe froze, her breath hitching. No, you can't. But Jungkook wasn't listening anymore. Instead, he turned to Wine and firmly grasped her wrist. Let's go. Wine's eyes widened in shock. Where? Jungkook took a step closer, his voice dropping to a softer tone. Didn't you just say you like me? Wine's cheeks flushed as she hesitantly nodded, her fingers tightening slightly around his hand. Jungkook gave her a small, reassuring smile. Then trust me. Without waiting for another word, he pulled her with him. Zoe screamed behind them, her voice breaking with anger and desperation. Jungkook, stop! You can't just leave me for her. But Jungkook didn't turn back. He didn't care anymore. With Wine's hand in his, he walked away, leaving Zoe and her word behind. After a long silent drive, the car pulled into the driveway of Jungkook's house, the hum of the engine fading as he parked. The silence between them had been heavy, neither of them speaking a word since they left Zoe's house. One sat still, her fingers nervously playing with the hem of her dress, unsure of what was happening. Jungkook sighed before stepping out and walking around the car to open her door. Come. She hesitated but followed him inside. The warm glow of the Joan family home greeted her, along with a familiar, welcoming face. Mrs. Joan, Jungkook's mother, appeared from the hallway, her eyes lighting up the moment she saw Wine. Oh, Wine, how are you? My dear daughter. Before Wine could react, Mrs. Joan pulled her into a warm hug. I'm good, Auntie. She smiled, feeling comforted by her embrace. Mrs. Jones pulled back, holding Wine's hand in hers. No need to call me auntie, you can call me mom instead. Wine's eyes widened slightly, glancing at Jungkook, who stood beside her with a neutral expression. Jungkook always talks about you. Her heart skipped a beat. She looked at him again, but he simply turned his gaze away, as if pretending he had not heard. Come have dinner with us. She then turned to Jungkook, her tone changing as she asked with thinly veiled disgust. By the way, where is Zoe? Jungkook exhaled sharply, his expression turning cold. We will talk about that later, Mom. Mrs. Jones raised a brow but didn't push the topic further. Wine, however, could tell from the way her lips curled slightly that she was more than pleased to see Jungkook bringing her home instead of Zoe. Mrs. Jones never liked Zoe. She tolerated her only because her son did. But tonight, to her shock and delight, it wasn't Zoe standing next to Jungkook, it was Wine. Later that night, in Jungkook's room, Jungkook sat on the couch in his room, deep in thought, when Mrs. Jones walked in, closing the door behind her. So, is that so? She crossed her arms. I knew that trash would never be good for you. Jungkook sighed, running a hand through his hair. Mom, I'm sorry. I know you always taught me to respect women, but I slapped Zoe twice. He looked down, his voice laced with guilt. I lost control when she slapped Wine. Mrs. Jones' face softened as she walked over and placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Oh, my son, she let out a deep breath, so you love Wine. Jungkook's eyes darted up to hers. I think so, but I'm not sure. I feel like I used Zoe. His voice wavered with uncertainty. Mrs. Jones shook her head. Jungkook, listen to me. She crouched down in front of him, cupping his hands in hers. Marriage is a lifetime commitment. You should choose someone you love, not someone you are just stuck with. Jungkook looked at her, his mother's words slowly sinking in. And about Zoe, next time try to avoid people like her instead of reacting with anger. Talk things through instead. Jungkook nodded. Mrs. Jones smiled softly, but then her gaze turned more serious. But tell me one thing, Jungkook. You say you love Wine, but does she love you back? Jungkook's lips curled into a small smile. She does, Mom. Mrs. Jones' eyes widened slightly. I asked her. A pleased expression crossed her face. That's wonderful. Just then, a soft knock interrupted their conversation. Jungkook. She peeked inside hesitantly. Mrs. Jones stood up. All right, I will leave you two alone. If you need anything, just let me know. She gave them both one last glance before stepping out and closing the door behind her. Wine fit Garrett slightly, standing near the door. I wanted to ask something. Jungkook tilted his head. What is it? Why did you bring me here? Her voice was small, unsure. Jungkook stood up, walking toward her, his intense gaze locked onto hers. Because I like you. Her breath hissed, but what about Zoe? Jungkook gently placed a finger over her lips, silencing her. Forget her. His voice was firm but gentle. You don't deserve to be treated like that. A warm feeling bloomed inside Vine's chest. Maybe God had listened to her silent prayers. For so long, she had admired him from afar, she had loved him in secret, and now, by some twist of fate, he was hers.